Welcome to In the Middle. I'm Vykky. I'm a wife, a mom, and a leader shaping some of the world's most beloved brands. This is the podcast for all of us figuring it out in real time. In 20 minutes or less, let's get in the middle of it all. I'm so glad you're here. Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm so glad you are here. So today we are going to unpack some of the questions that I've been receiving across the last few weeks, questions that are top of mind for folks, questions that I've received, that I've been asked for advice on. We are all somewhat navigating similar things, different use cases, and I hope that some of the questions that I share today will help you to think about things differently if you're navigating them right now. Today, as always, I share what I'm drinking. Today, I'm drinking this berry citrus tea from Bigelow Tea. My bonus daughter was having a little bit of a sore throat. We're just coming back from Hawaii. Our spring break was fantastic, with the exception of a quick trip to the ER. I will unpack that in an upcoming episode, but just know all is well. I am healing, but nobody plans to go to the ER on their vacation. So anywho, I am drinking this tea because I've started to feel like I have a little tickle in my throat, but this is fantastic. It has zinc in it and it is delicious. So I will get a sip. So the first question I received, what are you listening to, watching, reading right now? So like I said before, I am listening to a lot of podcasts. My top podcast right now, Sarah Jakes Roberts, Woman Evolve. I love her. I've loved her for many, many years. She's like a sister in my head. So I'm always listening to her. Emma Greed is another sort of like big sister mentor in my head. I listen to her podcast religiously. And you know what I think is really special? There have been some episodes and content shared on both of their podcasts of things that I've talked about in the past. And for me, that's like affirmation that I'm doing the thing I've been called to do. And I always like to call it a forehead kiss from the Lord of just like, you are doing the right thing. You are talking about the right topics. When I see communicators at that level talking about similar things with their own takes on it, it brings me a lot of joy. So that's what I'm listening to right now. The book I'm reading right now is called 12-Week Year. One of my best friends, Crystal, told me about that book a year ago. I picked it up. I started to read it back then, and I think I let life get in the way. And so I am reattempting to read it now. I started it on vacation. And so I'm committed to kind of blowing through that book really quickly because I've heard a lot of great things about it and how it's transformed the way people think and execute. And I've shared this before. My word for the year is execution. And so I am right now trying to consume some new content to help me continue to tweak the way I think about things and how I approach things. So I will give y'all updates as I go through the book. And if anyone has read the book, let me know what you think. Let me know what's been a great takeaway from the book and what you've applied to your life and how much it's impacted you. I'd love to hear. I'm watching, and this is totally me, but like I love to rewatch series that like I know through. There's almost like a comfort, like Sex in the City. I have rewatched that series countless times. I'm rewatching Suits, and it's so interesting to like rewatch that now to think about some of the things that were happening at the time. Obviously, we know Meghan Markle, like her whole story now, but like I just loved her so much even then. And so it is just really endearing to rewatch that series. So I am in the middle of watching that. All right, let's get into some of the other questions. That was like a fun softball question. So the second question is, how do I know if I'm supposed to keep going or if it's actually time to pivot? So I want to handle this delicately because I didn't get a lot of context on what that means. And it could mean, something professionally, or it could mean relationally. And so I don't want to overgeneralize or make things too like, oh, just make the choice, because it could, be something very heavy. And so I want to be sensitive about that. But what I will say practically from where I sit, whether it is a relational thing you're trying to navigate or a professional thing you're trying to navigate, I would encourage you to go back to home base, go back to the very first thing. What brought you there? Whether it's the relationship or the career, what was the thing that brought you there in the first place? And is that thing still true? So to make this more tangible, if it is the job, if you're asking yourself, like, am I supposed to still be in this role, or is it time for me to leave? Does the job still serve you? Does it still bring you joy? is there still things for you to learn in the role, or are you at the place where you feel like you've mastered the role and it is super stale? It's not bringing you any value. You're not learning anymore. You're not growing anymore. Like, I think you have to get back to the reason you were there initially. And if it's still true and if it's still serving you, then I think the next practical step is to think about ways for you to breathe new life into that role. But if you're on the other side and you're like, yeah, no, it doesn't serve me. It's only benefiting the company. I have the Sunday scaries. If you go through all of that and it's that, then yes, maybe it is time to pivot. But I would encourage you to make that decision with discernment and proper counsel. And the counsel means like your community, the people who know you, your mentors, and then also counsel of what is the market saying right now. Is the role that you are in or the role that you're desiring, are there lots of options out there for you to make the leap? The other piece I'll say, and this again is applicable both to career as well as relational things, I would always encourage you to be running towards something versus running away from something. I think sometimes we get in these situations where the job or the relationship is feeling hard or you get tired. And I've had to ask myself, am I tired because this is stretching me, or am I like tired because this no longer serves me? This is where being really honest with yourself comes into play, because consistency, regardless of what capacity it's needed, it requires endurance. So even if you've been married, 15, 20 years, there are going to be seasons where it's just harder and you have to endure because you have seen the good seasons and you've been carried through the harder seasons, and you know that you'll get back to a good season. Of course, you do all of the data collection and you question whether or not the relationship is healthy and is serving you, and you still of course love the person, and all of those things. Again, I'm not trying to minimize it, but I just want to encourage you to not make a premature decision because you're in a hard season and because you feel tired. So yes, I would say consistency, it requires endurance, but misalignment requires honesty, and you have to take stock. And it's so hard, both on the relationship side as well as the career side, to look yourself in the mirror and realize, okay, this relationship, this friendship, I'm not aligned anymore. It no longer serves me. And so I need to walk away. I need to make a different decision for me. You need to have that honest conversation with yourself, or you need to say, you know what, this is just a hard season at work. I still feel a lot of joy in my job, but I'm going to press through because I still see a ton of value here. So I hope that helps. And I am praying for you to have the clarity and the discernment you need to make the most sound decision with the information you have today. Okay, so the next question says, how am I supposed to trust God when what's happening in my life doesn't look anything like what I prayed for? Woo-wee. Man, that is, oh Lord, that one hit me. Yeah, that one hit me. I've been there before, and I believe anything that I say will feel like, well, it's easy enough for you to say you're not going through it. But I just want to encourage you that because I've been there before and I've gotten to the other side, and I realize that like it truly comes down to trust. And I hope that there are moments in your past that you can look back to encourage you that it is not always what it appears. And God is working in the background right now for you. And those things just haven't come to pass. But if you would just avoid quitting and abandoning the things that you've been praying for, I believe that it will happen for you. I just trust that if God planted it in your heart, he's never failed me, and he's not a liar. And so if it hasn't happened, it's not a thing where it's not going to, it's just, it hasn't happened yet. And so this is where we tap into our endurance. This is where we tap into just trusting that his plan for your life is greater than anything that you could imagine. And so I would just encourage you to be patient. Faith isn't proven when things are right. It's so easy to have faith when everything is going perfectly. It's really when things don't look great or feel great, you feel like you're losing on all sides. That is when your faith is refined. It is so easy for us to trust God when things make sense. The real thing we have to be honest with ourselves is, can we trust Him when they don't? I sometimes have to remind myself that faith isn't believing for something, it's believing through something. And so until I can see the thing, I have to just will myself with my faith and with past miracles to press me through this hard season where nothing makes sense. And so I hope that you can maybe refine your heart posture to know that if He did it before, like He will do it again. And I know that's like a song quote, but it just like, it's the only thing that I can really know to be true, is that like I've seen the hand of God spare my daughter's life. And so if He carried me through that, I have to believe that the next mountain that I face, He will carry me through that as well. And so I'm believing the same thing for you. Please don't be too distracted by what is happening around you and what you can see in the natural, because we know that that's temporary, right? The things we can't see, those are the things that are eternal. So keep the faith. And I'm believing for you to get through this with grace, with trust, with faith, and even more confidence in God's will for your life. All right, the next question. Whew, and I feel this one too. Y'all, these are some really good questions. Is it just me, or does it feel like everyone is going through a transition season right now? It's not just you. I really feel like there is transition happening everywhere. There's transition of power, there are transitions of careers, relationships. And I wonder, has it always felt this way, or has like social media and our access to information accelerated or made it more visible, and it's always been this way, and so now we have more access to it? Does that make sense? Like, has this rate of transition always been this way, or has it truly accelerated across the last few years? I do believe that social media and media has made it more visible, and so we have a higher awareness. But I also do wonder, has it picked up? I certainly think on the career front, we've seen way more layoffs than we had in a really long time. I don't know if it goes back to the big financial crisis during 2008, but I definitely think we're getting there. I also think like there is something about this season that we're in, and it feels like the ability to be comfortable is really slipping away. And there's going to be this great divide of people and communities who are willing to work and think differently because of what's happening in the world. And I believe candidly that those of us who are willing to put a hand to the plow and to reimagine the way that we approach our work, the way we approach everything, those people who are willing to think differently will be set aside and will be able to move forward in this new age that we're moving towards. And folks who continue to chase comfortableness and the way things always were, I worry that they are going to be left behind. When you think about the rise of AI, and obviously AI has been woven into our daily life way before, I think ChatGPT has sort of put it on the mainstream more, but AI has been a part of our lives way longer than I think anyone is really acknowledging. And so because of that, that is a big driver in us needing to think and work differently. I'm always just reminded of the scripture that says, like, you can't put old wine in new wineskins, or you can't hope for different outcomes doing the same things. I think that's the definition of insanity. I believe we can't expect growth, new levels, new elevation if we continue to pursue things with the same mindsets, the same habits, the same patterns. All right, so the next question: how do I stay consistent when I don't feel motivated anymore? I have had to let go of motivation being one of my KPIs. I just believe that motivation is not a reliable source to help me to achieve any long-term goals. I've had to stop asking myself, do I feel like it? And start asking myself, is this who I said I am going to be? And that is the difference for me. That has been the unlock, because when I tap into my feelings, babes, I'm always tired. Your girl is tired. I have a very demanding and rewarding career. I have a very busy and active family. I have this podcast baby she is ever present. It is a team of one. And so, yes, I am exhausted most days, but there are things that I have said that I'm going to be and I'm going to do. And I can't rely on motivation to push me through. I just believe that consistency isn't about being on fire for it every single day. Sometimes it is quiet and you have to still show up and do it even in the quiet. It honestly, and this is just hard truth, either you're going to do it or you're not. And I think you have to be honest with yourself. And I think you have to look at the deeper motivation behind why you're doing it. If you can't find the real purpose of the thing that you're doing, it might not be the right thing to do. If you have to will yourself, especially if it is something that's not your job, like your job, you need to show up because you need that money. So you're going to have to show up unless you have hit the lottery and you won it big. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to have to show up. But if it is something that you've self-elected to do, like a podcast, like leading a knitting group or some other community activity that you have opted into, if you are struggling to consistently show up for it, there are some hard questions you need to have with yourself. Do you need to reprioritize something else? Has the season run its course? And I often believe that we sometimes get into the rhythm of doing these things that we don't acknowledge when our season is up. We hold ourselves accountable to seeing something through, or we keep things open-ended. Sometimes your season is done after one or two. You aren't accountable to doing something forever, whether it's with your sorority or fraternity. Like if you were like a troop leader for Girl Scouts, your season might be up. It might bring a little frustration or challenge or change management that's needed to pass the torch. But if you are struggling so much with the consistency of it, there may be something deeper that you need to unpack. And I'll just say the last 2 episodes before this episode, I did like a 2-part series about consistency. And there's a lot of goodness there and a lot of practical things that you can do today to help you unpack how you can be more consistent. If you've answered the question of like, yes, this thing still drives value for my life, or this is something I still want to prioritize, head back to those episodes to see if there are some things you can glean from that to help you with your consistency. All right, next question. What do you do when you feel like you've outgrown your current season, but nothing new has opened up yet? Growing a season to me doesn't mean that you are necessarily stepping into the next one straight away. Now, that would feel great. And that would be, for me, as someone who thinks very black and white, that is ideal. But it doesn't happen that way. I am always reminded when I think about outgrowing a season or moving from one season to the next, I think about David. And I think about the fact that he was anointed way before he actually walked into his calling. And so sometimes, even when we've outgrown a season or a situation, the next thing is still being developed for us. Remember when you were transitioning from like elementary to middle school or middle school to high school, you were that big fish in the small pond. You felt that so deeply, but you still had to get through that grade. And so in the same way, yes, that space is uncomfortable, but please be encouraged that it is necessary. There is still either something for you to learn or something for you to do to really prepare you for the next thing. And so as seamless as it would feel to be like, oh, I'm done, and the next thing is packaged up perfectly for you, don't prematurely leave the season that you're in, because there might be something else for you to get before you go. And honestly, this is largely why I created In the Middle in the first place, because we are often in the middle of something that we're navigating, whether it is relationships, careers, families, all of the things. Like there are areas of my life where I feel like I've outgrown them, but on a good day, I can acknowledge that there are little teeny pockets that I could continue to tweak and optimize while I wait for the next season to open up for me. Okay, so the next question. I've heard you talk about alignment before. What does it actually look like to be in alignment, not just successful? And this is a really good question because I don't believe that success and alignment are synonyms of one another. I think that they coexist, but I don't think that they are the same. I believe success is external, whereas alignment is internal. So I believe that you can win publicly and it's like, oh man, you are killing it on paper. You got the white picket fence, the house, the 2.5 kids, everything looks perfect. But there could be something privately that feels off. And I would encourage you to not silence that. I believe that that's your discernment. that is kicking in to say like, hey, something isn't quite right. And so to answer your question more directly, I believe alignment is when your life matches your values, not just your goals. Whew, okay, y'all, we got through the questions. There were a few more here, but I'm looking at my clock and I'm already at like 30 something minutes. And so I'm going to try to edit some of this down because I am doing my best to keep this at 20 minutes or less. I didn't want to rush through this because there was a lot of great questions here. And please continue to bring those questions in. I know it's been a while since I did the last questions that need answers episodes, but I saved these questions. So if you have some, please send them to me either on my socials, Vykky Howard on all platforms, or send it to the podcast in the _middle pod on Instagram and TikTok in particular. We do have Facebook as well, but she's a little unloved. But I do check it. And then also on YouTube, always, that's under the Life with Vykky brand. But before we go, because again, I always feel like this is a two-way conversation, I have a question for y'all to consider across the week. And remember, this is always coming from a place of curiosity. This could be from a place of sort of auditing. We are just jumping into Q2. My question, who are you becoming if you keep living like this for the next year? And if you immediately am like, I like her, she's going to be lit, that is great. I want to hear about it. But if there's just a little, and for me, y'all, it was a little, like, this is a great time just to take a beat and to pause and say, okay, what are the things that I need to change? We're in Q2. We have time. We have time to make some small adjustments. It's not a big swing left or right, but the first step is just acknowledging. Like when I look at my life right now, what is it telling me about how my life will be a year from now? And there are some things that I want to change and evolve. And so if that's the case for you, like, let's do this thing together. I'd love to hear about it. Send me a DM, drop it in the comments if you feel comfortable. Take the first step in making that assessment. Please, again, send the questions my way. This is always helpful for me it forces me to kind of think about things, and it also inspires upcoming episodes. So thank you so much for being here. I will see you next week. Bye. Thanks for listening to In the Middle. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend and click subscribe so you never miss an honest conversation about life in the middle. I'll see you next time.